Hey, precious family. How you doing? This is your brother Samuel. Have you ever felt like it was time for you to move on from a place that you were serving or that you were working or you were doing something? Um, have you also been somewhere and felt like, no, I want to stay and I want to help this vision. I want to help this thing to flourish, to exist. Um, well, I'm going to address something that I think is stirring really hugely in my heart that I can perhaps throw in the mix to help you make your decision. You see, I've spent close to 20 years, no, 20 years maybe, in the nonprofit world, working with churches and working with, you know, NGOs, nonprofit organizations, all sorts of things like that. And one of the things that frequently grieves me is when world-class people come into the organization and for one reason or another, they're kind of like pushed to the side or kicked out, booted out. Something happens, offense or whatever, and then they end up leaving. And of course, the organization suffers because organizations are only ever made up of the quality of people who are in them. Every organization, government, everything, it's all made up of people. And so the quality of the people makes up the quality of the organization. I've learned something about being involved with a ministerial organization, and that is, there comes a time or there comes a season where you can start to feel the grace lift from what you're doing, and that's a really pleasant or a really pretty way to say that the favor that God has given you to endure the work or to do the difficult things, that it's gone. And sometimes you'll notice swiftly, and sometimes you'll notice over a longer period of time. That sound that you're hearing, that's actually my son playing in the background. He's actually gonna come in and be a part of this video here in a little bit. He's important to what I'm sharing with you, actually. William, stay close, buddy. You see, because many of us in this generation have dealt with fatherlessness, or there are those of us who are leaders. There are those of us who are leaders who might not realize how called we are to step into a role of fathering and mothering those who serve with us. People give their life up to come alongside you and to build whatever vision that God's given you, whatever vision you're trying to do. And so in order to actually serve them well, there has to be a really conscious focusing on not just what you're building, not just working on what you're working on, because there has to be integrity in that. Like you have to integrally build what God's given you to work on, this thing that He's put in your heart to make manifest in the earth, right? But there also has to be intentional thought of, how do I care for the people that God has entrusted to me to serve alongside me in this vision? Just like, I've got four children, and just like I don't treat all of them the same, I don't discipline them all the same. Those who serve underneath yours, who serve with you, it's like you can't treat them the same. You can't put them at the same task and expect them to fill it, not just equally, but you can't expect them to fill it the same. There has to be an intentional looking like, right, this child of mine is gifted musically. Oh, this child of mine is clearly has like an engineering gift or bent to them, right? I have a belief, I have a thought that I think is might be controversial to some people, but might make perfect sense to others. And that's that when you lead what you're building, it has to have space for your children. or the thing that God's given you to build or to develop or to design or to create, when he sends you these folks who are being mentored and trained and built up by you, if there's no space or no room added on to the thing that you're building for them, then it's actually in your best interest and in their best interest that they leave. Because there'll come a season or there'll come a time when the grace lifts from their life to be there. And if they stay with no grace, then everything that they produce it'll be broken, tainted. My son, don't do that. Come here, buddy. Come here. One of the things that's really important is that as I'm building, there has to be space. There has to be space in what I'm building for my sons, for my daughter. And if there isn't, then they'll have to leave me. In order to be faithful to what God's put in them, they'll have to leave me. In my time serving people and being with these different organizations, there's one organization in particular that I won't say the name of, but they've had more world-class leaders come and leave than many other organizations have had a world-class leader come to visit. I'll say that again. This particular organization has lost more world-class leaders than most others will ever see. And it's not because they're wicked. It's not because they're unkind. It's not because they're foolish. I don't think it's any of those things. I think it's because there's been no space made for the dreams and the vision of their children. And so as you go and build, and as you go and create and design these things that God's put on your heart, be mindful to recognize like these spiritual sons and daughters. Be mindful to recognize these people who they just seem devoted to you and what you're building, and intentionally pursue their hearts for what's in them. Because if there's no space, if there's no room built on your structure for them to reside in, for their dreams to blossom alongside yours or within what you're building, if their dreams can't blossom in what you're building, they'll have to leave. They'll have to. And if they stay, what you're building will suffer. I bless you to recognize, for those of you who are in a season where you're feeling like leaving, like I bless you to recognize whether or not the grace is lifted, or whether or not you just need to, mature and buckle down and take care of it. And for those who are leading, I want you to examine what you're building and to see if you're making space for the dreams of your sons and daughters within what you're building. It is of the utmost importance. You have to do it. I love you. Bless you.